Okay, so things are getting a little bit more interesting now, aren't they? We've had this discussion going on for a while regarding Philadelphia Flyers captain Claude Giroux. Where was he going to go? Was he even going to go? He's in the last year of his contract. Is he going to stick around in Philadelphia? These were all questions we had, and it appears that based off of the folks at the Hockey Now media sphere, we do have ourselves an answer. No, it's not one that says, okay, Claude Giroux is going to go here, but it's one that kind of indicates where Claude Giroux himself lies internally. This is important because the contract he does have a no-move clause, so when it comes to a potential Claude Giroux trade, he is ultimately going to be the reason why this trade gets done. He is going to be the reason that it's even allowed, and Philadelphia Flyers fans, he's going to be the reason why you're able to get anything in return for this guy should he go to free agency. So, we had ourselves early reports talking about the Colorado Avalanche debating whether or not they could be the team that Giroux would want to go to, and hey, based off of the word we have from Adrian, it appears that might be the case. I'm told, Dater says, that Claude Giroux has made it known to Flyers GM Chuck Fletcher that Colorado is where he wants to go. If, somehow, that doesn't work out, Minnesota or St. Louis would be acceptable alternatives. And so, there you go. 3 teams on the block right here. One of them is the main one that everybody's connecting Claude Giroux to. The second and third are other teams that are also pretty good central powerhouses. This is apparently our palette as to where Claude Giroux is going to end up. Let's go over onto the NHL standings and see where each of the Avalanche, the Blues, and the Wild are. They are indeed 3 of the top 4 teams in the Central Division. Colorado, 72 points in 46 games played. Minnesota, 63 points in 44 games played. And St. Louis, 59 points in 46 games played. Each of these teams, they've been on a heater. Colorado probably in the biggest one. They've only lost like 3 regulation games in the past however many months it's been. It's been a pretty long time. They're doing pretty well, and as we had discussed in earlier videos talking about this same topic, Claude Giroux going over to Colorado behind Nathan MacKinnon, behind Nazem Kadri, would be absolutely terrifying for the rest of the NHL, let alone all the teams in the Central Division in the playoffs. And just that idea alone is enough to make me understand, okay, there is a reason why Claude Giroux would prefer to go to Colorado. I mean, this has also been the idea that everybody has thrown around the most out of all the other teams the past few days, so it's not really a foreign idea to my mind anymore. And so, Claude Giroux, Colorado Avalanche, it is indeed a pretty interesting discussion, and it's one that I do think is a lot more likely to come to fruition than not, the idea of Claude Giroux getting traded, rather than him just sticking around on the Flyers past the trade deadline and going to UFA status and not doing anything for this team. Everybody talks about how the Flyers wasted his career in the prime of his career and all that, but come on. Even though that may be true, it seems more like a Claude Giroux kind of thing to actually get traded and give this team assets rather than just up and away leave. And so, with the Flyers being as bad as they are and them trying to go out there and get as much as they're trying to get for guys like Martin Jones and everything, it does make sense that this would fall into place this way. And so, if you're a Colorado Avalanche fan, let me know in the comments, what is it that you would like to give up for Claude Giroux in a trade? We already discussed about one hypothetical trade package that included the likes of Sampo Ranta, Justin Barron, Tyson Jost, a few guys that it's been reported that the Flyers are very much interested in. But of course, if you're a Flyers fan, let me know in the comments if you think this kind of trade package is acceptable. Now, on to the Wild and on to the Blues. We haven't talked about your teams yet, so let's go ahead and get this out of the way. Claude Giroux would be a very good addition to both of these teams as well, and I don't really think it's difficult to understand why. For the St. Louis Blues, this team has Braden Shen, Ryan O'Reilly, Jordan Kyrou, Buchnevich, Thomas, and Tarasenko in their top 6. Saad, Barbashev, and Perron round out that top 9. Having a guy like Claude Giroux inserted into this lineup, you don't need me to tell you, it'd be pretty great. Now, I personally am not really too familiar with the Blues lines and their chemistry and everything to actually figure out where Giroux could fit on this team. Do you move Barbashev out of the top 9 and you put Giroux on your third line, or do you shift Thomas to the wing or whatever? Like, do you really want to put any of Shen, O'Reilly, Kyrou, Buchnevich, Thomas, or Tarasenko onto your third line and out of the top 6? Because that's a pretty good top 6 if you do ask me. you're probably going to have to find somewhere to put Claude Giroux, and it's going to be a pretty difficult task. But when it comes to the Minnesota Wild, hey, this is a team that has Frédéric Gaudreau as their current second-line center, alongside of Kevin Fiala and Matt Boldy. Sure, they do have some injuries. Bjugstad is out, so there's another forward there. But this team so far, Kaprizov, Hartman, Zuccarello, Fiala, X, and Boldy, sounds like prime material for where a Claude Giroux could go. Have him on that second line with Kevin Fiala. Play him alongside that Matt Boldy that just got a hat trick the other night. I didn't miss that, by the way. Very good to see out of Boldy. And so, I do think there's a lot more of a well-defined spot on the Wild compared to the Blues, where Claude Giroux could just come in and fit right easily. Again, no disrespect to Frédéric Gaudreau, but that's kind of how I see things if I were to add Giroux to this team. So you can let me know in the comments if you're a Wild fan what you think your team should do if Giroux gets acquired. But the biggest discussion of all lies in the trade return. Of course, Colorado, Jost, Ranta, Baron, that's a pretty big package for one player that is essentially just a rental. He happens to be one of the better rentals to enter the market over the past few years, though. If this is sort of, let's say, not even the price, but like a ballpark estimate, because those three, Ranta, Baron, Jost, are only really labeled as players the Flyers are interested in, let's kind of try to brainstorm what a Philadelphia Flyers team could want out of these other teams. So, St. Louis, you do have yourselves some pretty good roster forwards. I do like everybody you've got. Let's say, for the sake of argument, Jost is equivalent to Ivan Barbashev. You have Justin Barron, who is equivalent to, I don't know, a really good defense prospect that the Blues have. Scott Perunovich, I guess he kind of counts. Really good in the NCAA, suiting up for the Blues already. I guess he's sort of in that conversation, right? And then for a forward, you could maybe say, okay, Zachary Bolduc is over there. You also have Jake Neighbors, a few really good, valuable forward prospects, Will Bitton as well. And so that might be sort of the territory if we think about a Bolduc, a Perunovich, and another roster player like Barbashev. What do you think about that, St. Louis Blues fans? I know it's a little bit of a difficult pill to swallow because it's a big package, but it is sort of akin to what we were talking about when it comes to the Colorado Avalanche. As to the Minnesota Wild, they do have a ton of really good players also at their disposal when it comes to forwards. Hey, you do have that Frédéric Gaudreau, who is playing pretty alright. You do have Nick Bjugstad, who is currently injured. But when it comes to defense prospects, the ones that come to my mind are Caleb Addison. You also have Damon Hunt, Ryan O'Rourke, not to mention Carson Lambos, who is probably a lot more akin to the caliber of a Justin Barron from Colorado, because they're both 20-plus first-round picks. So, for the sake of argument for Minnesota, let's propose the idea that it's Nick Bjugstad, maybe a Carson Lambos, and then another forward prospect, so maybe somebody like an Adam Beckman, for the sake of argument. I know a lot of Wild fans just kind of cringed in their seats upon hearing that, but you gotta pay a price to get somebody as good as a Claude Giroux, even if he is a rental. And I guess you could go out there and make the debate that Claude Giroux is a lot more than just a regular rental. Even though he is just a regular rental, it's Claude Giroux. Like, come on. This is one of the most decorated players of the entire 2010s. One of the most well-rounded and offensively sound guys. One of the most underrated players throughout the past decade and a half, pretty much. And so, for Claude Giroux, I could totally understand if the price gets up to that high of an amount, because even though he is a rental, as I said, it's Claude Giroux. So, if you're a Colorado Avalanche fan, a St. Louis Blues fan, or a Minnesota Wild fan, talk to me in the comments all your thoughts about these trade proposals that I've kind of brought up, what the price could be for a Claude Giroux, and why you would want or not want to go after this player. He's interested in your team, so there is a pretty good foundation of success to be had here, I guess. And if you're a Philadelphia Flyers fan, let me know in the comments as well, what kind of package out of the three that we have discussed would you prefer the most? Something like a Sampo Ranta, Tyson Jost, Justin Barron from Colorado, or a Perunovich, Barbashev, Zachary Bolduc from St. Louis, or is it a Kalen Addison, Nick Bjugstad, and Adam Beckman package from the Minnesota Wild? I think they're all sort of in the same territory. Of course, there will be some splitting hairs in the comments section, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing that. But talk to me in the comments either way. If you're a fan of any of these teams, what are your thoughts on Claude Giroux? Being interested over here, I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.